The women of BTS.
And maybe that's a question you should ask China.
Why did you yell at me? Why?
Quiggle Ignacio was rolling when she says a woman punched her, leaving a nasty bruise on her left cheek.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
Go back to your country, bitch!
And he said something about me being Asian and saying that you should go back to China and that your chinky eyes and you're stupid Asian and you should leave this country.
Why China? Allah, China!
Have your country. This is my country. This is not a Chinese.
How do you guys tell these people apart?
I am Mariam and I am a second-generation immigrant. That means that I'm born and raised here in the Netherlands, but at least one of my parents migrated here. In my case, both of my parents and my brother were born in Armenia and came here in 1999. As my entire class in primary school was mainly Dutch, I was always the odd one. You speak Dutch so well! I don't even hear an accent. Why did your parents come here? Was there no food in your country? Was there war in your country? Fast forward to 15-year-old me. My mom quit her job because her colleagues did not think her Dutch was good enough. She was denied opportunities purely because she isn't a native, and my mom had enough. Almost a year went by and my mom had troubles finding a job. This is because her surname didn't sound Dutch. She was getting depressed and our fridge was usually empty. Yes, even after grocery shopping. Fast forward to, as you are watching this right now, 19-year-old me. My mom has found a job at the municipality, but she is still missing opportunities. As she has years of experience, she sees in front of her eyes people who are just starting get better opportunities than her. The difference between her and them is nationality. My family is not the first and certainly not the last experiencing something like this. Let's take a dive in history and see if we have learned from our mistakes. Back in the 1600s, the first African slaves were transported to America. I don't think it is necessary to explain to you how horrible the living conditions were for these slaves. When Britain abolished slavery in 1833, America followed suit in 1865, 2 years after the Netherlands. While the abolishment of slavery was greatly celebrated, mainly by black people or colonized countries, the celebration was very bittersweet. Black people were still being mistreated by society or seen as less than the white man. Racial segregation was very active in the 20th century, meaning that black people were being separated from white people in everyday life. While these horrible happenings in history are often common knowledge to us, there are stories of racism or segregation regarding a specific group being neglected. In 1941, December 7th, Pearl Harbor was attacked by the Japanese military. This left 16-year-old Aki Kurose and millions of other Americans speechless. However, Aki's situation was different. Growing up in Seattle, she always saw herself as American. But when she would go to school after the attack, her teacher pointed to her and told her that her people attacked Pearl Harbor. With the fear of possible betrayal, the United States sent anyone of Japanese descent to labor camps. These camps were crowded, unsanitary, and above all, unconstitutional. After the war, the camps closed down and ex-prisoners from these camps were given $25 and a train ticket to where they used to live. Used to. As many lost their homes, finding jobs was hard. Luckily, for as far as you can call it lucky, Aki was not alone in fighting this battle against racism. She pursued her fight against racial inequality and became a teacher. In 1992, Aki was rewarded the Human Rights Award from the Seattle chapter of the United Nations. This was for her activism and advocacy for multicultural, socially conscious education. Leaving this story with a happy ending, there are still countless of acts of discrimination happening today which are not so obvious to us as slavery or being sent to camps.
Please let me stand. Please back up,
I want to look at hidden racism. I want to look at the casual racism that is not so obvious to the common eye. For this, it is important to understand why we generalize, stereotype, or discriminate in the first place. To understand the world around us and the situations we are in, we make use of schemas. A schema is an underlying organizational pattern or structure, kind of like a conceptual framework. A schema provides the basis by which someone relates to the events he or she experiences. This brings me to liminal thinking. This pyramid describes how each of us are seeing pieces of the truth, but none of us have the whole truth. Everyone's beliefs are partly true, but not completely. This is because we all have our own experiences or observations in life. From those experiences, we select what is relevant to us, simply because we cannot notice every single thing. From what is relevant to us, we make assumptions. From assumptions, we draw conclusions. And from those conclusions, we form our beliefs. Everything you think you know is part of those beliefs. While standing on the top of our pyramid, we tend to think we are on the ground. However, as you can see, this ground is 5 layers under us. What is then above us is the obvious. The obvious is this bubble we position ourselves in with everything we believe is obvious to us. This bubble is usually accompanied with other people who most likely have similar experiences and beliefs as us. The bubble constantly confirms someone's beliefs and other ideas are readily tested. Now, I want you to realize that every single person on the planet has their own pyramid. This can create clashes between people, cultures, religions, or even races. Misunderstandings arise while people stay in their own bubble of what is obvious to them and what feels safe to them. And we can recognize this in society today, from the traditions to what we teach our kids to what we see in the media. When COVID-19 spread around the globe, so did xenophobia. Xenophobia is the dislike of or prejudice against people from other countries. As almost the whole world was in lockdown, civilization needed a country or cause to point a finger to. This country was China. I have a Chinese friend, and she works for her parents in their Chinese restaurant. In the past 3 months, she would get calls from people when they order their food if they could have less corona with their food. Over the last 6 months, harassment and racism towards Asians has grown. UK police forces showed at least 276 anti-Asian hate crimes recorded across the country. This was between January and March. That is nearly 3 cases every single day. In Australia, this number was worse. 187 incidents of COVID-related racism against Asians were recorded in the first 2 weeks of April, almost 13 cases every single day. I truly believe Asian racism is not talked about enough or not taken seriously enough. The fact that it is not taken seriously enough is part of institutional racism. Institutional racism is racial discrimination that has become established as normal behavior within a society or organization. After the abolishment of slavery, the black man has nothing. No house, no money, no education. He has to find ways to make money on his own. Police arrest and sentence this black man as he has no money for a lawyer. His grandchildren are not allowed to go to the same good quality schools as white children. Their grandchildren will have a similar fate. Segregation is over, but they cannot afford it given the money and level of education the family line has. Their grandchildren are seen as dumber, poorer, or more criminal, because statistics show this. Their grandchildren are more suspicious, thugs. One of these grandchildren is murdered by police for suspected forgery of a $20 bill. Black people are 3 times more likely to get killed by the police. 7 black Americans every 1 million population to be exact. 99% of those killings by the police from 2013 to 2019 have not resulted in officers being charged with a crime. All of this has made me think, and has me thinking about what I would want the future to be in my ideal situation. What I want to change is that millions of primary school children just like me one day won't have to grow up in a racist society. A society where we don't discriminate. Firstly, I want to break this cycle of institutional racism. Now, that is easier said than done. Trust me, I know. I think the best way to end discrimination is to step down from your own pyramid and climb someone else's. Educate, talk, discuss, spread awareness. These are all remedies against racism. Children are very easy to influence. That's why I think it is of importance to teach them about racial differences from a young age. This way, recognizing racism will happen much faster and easier for them. I see the future as bright and colorful. And despite many setbacks, I do believe that we have a positive future. I do believe that discrimination will become less and less the more time goes on. I can only see the future as diverse and rich in color. Speaking of color, I hear the phrase, "I don't see color," said a lot. And while it does sound nice and meant in a good way, it actually isn't. From not seeing color, you deny that there are different races, ethnicities, cultures, languages. By denying that you see color, you deny that other people go through racism because, well, you don't see the color, you don't see their race. But the point is not to turn a blind eye. The point is to accept differences and spread awareness about what people go through because of their skin color or their race. It is to accept, embrace, and understand what someone else is going through. So maybe we should see color.